Today we saw the major sights of the romantic City of Light with our knowledgeable local guide. Although we are not able to enter these landmarks, I've provided some video of interior spaces for your enjoyment. Anchored by two of the most recognizable landmarks in Paris, the Plaza De La Concord and the Arc de Triomphe, the Champs-Élysées is the most famous boulevard in the world. Originally a garden path during the reign of Louis XIV, the pathway grew in prominence both because of its location and its growing beauty. By the close of the 18th century, it was already the most fashionable area in all of Paris, with the boulevard occupying a central role in the daily life of Paris's most affluent. Today, the Champs-Élysées is filled with elegant cafes, luxury shops, and glamorous nightclubs. Over the years, the Champs-Élysées has been the site of many military parades, and it serves as a finishing line for today's Tour de France. At the base of the Champs-Élysées resides the Place de la Concord. It is one of the most prominent plazas in French history from the time of the French Revolution up until present day. It was originally the site of the notorious executions by guillotine of Louis XVI, his infamous wife Marie Antoinette, and the 2,500 other individuals who lost their heads. Its location is marked by the Great Luxor Obelisk, an engraved pillar that was given to France by Egypt in the 19th century. The obelisk is approximately 3,000 years old and was once used to mark the entrance of the Luxor tombs. At the other end of the Champs-Élysées sits the Arc de Triomphe. This world-famous monument was commissioned by Napoleon after his victory in Austerlitz. However, it was not completed until after his disgrace and deposition. The arch, which was erected in 1806, serves as a tribute to France's military victories throughout the ages. Inspired by Rome's Arch of Titus, this colossal 164-foot arch is the largest of its kind in the world. It contains engravings which tells the story of France's military superiority through images and words. Below the arch rests the tomb of the unknown soldier, where every day new flowers are placed and a torch is lit at 6:30 p.m. The traffic circle that surrounds the arch is named after Charles de Gaulle, but Parisians refer to it as the Star, which is a reference to the 12 radiating avenues that jet out from its base. The star attraction in the Saint-Germain-des-Prés is the Musée d'Orsay. This is home to a world-class collection of Impressionist paintings and was opened in 1986. The museum is housed in a converted railway station located on the Seine River. The train station, which opened in 1900, became obsolete in 1939 because the platform was too short for the longer trains, which were now in vogue. It took almost 200 years to finish the Notre Dame Cathedral, but it was well worth the wait. Immortalized by Victor Hugo and his fictional Hunchback, Notre Dame is a Gothic masterpiece. In 2013, she celebrated her 850th anniversary. The history of the Notre Dame Cathedral is closely linked to the history of France. Built in the 12th century, modified in the 18th century, and then restored in the 19th century, it has been the symbol of Christian worship in Paris over the centuries. The architect of the cathedral, who remained anonymous, designed a building of exceptional dimensions. 127 meters long, 40 meters wide, and 33 meters high. Until the middle of the 13th century, the cathedral was the largest religious monument in the Western world. The most important transformations of the cathedral took place in the 18th century. That is when the choir was completely renovated and decorated in a Baroque style. Also during this time, the French Revolution plundered and ransacked the building, which was already badly damaged. In the 19th century, the cathedral was completely restored. And in the 20th century, it remained a high place of worship. It was then classified as a World Cultural Heritage Site by UNESCO. On April 15, 2019, a fire broke out beneath the roof of the Notre Dame Cathedral. By the time the structure fire was extinguished, the building's spire had collapsed, most of the roof had been destroyed, and its upper walls were severely damaged. The stabilization of the Notre Dame Cathedral is on track to reopen in 2024. Officials say the restoration effort is seeking to meet President Emmanuel Macron's ambitious plan to reopen the cathedral 5 years after it was ravaged by fire. Construction began on the Palais Garnier in 1860. However, this Paris opera house did not open to the public until 1875. This institution was made famous by Gaston Leroux's novel, The Phantom of the Opera, and it was the real-life inspiration of Edgar Degas' dancer paintings. The building's grand foyer is one of the most exquisite salons in all of France. The palace was the residence of the Paris Opera until 1989, when the Bastille Opera House was built. Today, the Palais Garnier is the home of the Paris Ballet. However, occasionally a few operas are performed throughout the year. Overlooking the Seine, the Paris Town Hall contains the residence and offices of the mayor. Reconstructed in 1873 after an attack by rioting crowds, it is one of Paris's most stunning buildings, made all the more dramatic by elaborate nighttime lighting. The adjoining public library stages frequent free exhibits celebrating famous photographers and notable subjects, often the city herself. With its curved glass roof and gorgeously restored ornamentation, you can't miss the Grand Palais whether you're approaching from the Seine or the Champs-Élysées. It forms an elegant duo with the Petite Palais across Winston Churchill Avenue. Both stone-constructed buildings are adorned with mosaics and sculpted friezes. Both of these structures were built for the 1900 World's Fair, and like the Eiffel Tower, were not intended to be permanent. The Grand Palais' exquisite exhibit space is host to large-scale shows that might focus on anything from jewelry to cars. The Petite Palais has a small collection of excellent paintings and sculptures by Claude Monet, among others. The building is an architectural marvel of marble, glass, and opulence. The building's impressive entry doors and huge windows overlook the Seine River. Outside, you can spy an eye-catching sculpture of a resolute Winston Churchill facing the river below. In the center of the Saint-Germain-des-Prés neighborhood, you will find the oldest church in Paris. From a historical perspective, the Church of Saint-Germain-des-Prés is one of the most important churches in Paris. It was founded in 542 for the purpose of housing a relic of the true cross that had been brought back from the Holy Land. Although the relic was later moved to the Notre Dame Cathedral, the church retains its importance as a venue for concerts. The church was ransacked on several occasions by the Normans, and very little remains of the original building, other than a few of the columns. The church was rebuilt, enlarged, and reconsecrated in 1163 by Pope Alexander III. After the French Revolution, tons of gunpowder was stored in the church, and it exploded, destroying a part of the church as well. Despite all that, the Church of Saint-Germain-des-Prés is an architectural wonder in Roman style, which is rare in Paris. The elements you will see inside are in different styles and from different epochs. You will therefore notice that the nave is in Roman style, while the choir is in a primitive Gothic style. And even some sculptures date back to the 14th and 17th centuries. In addition to a regular schedule of masses and devotions, the Saint-Germain-des-Prés is noted for the church's wonderful acoustics and hosts concerts and recitals featuring Gregorian chant. The medieval atmosphere of the church lends even more to the performances. The Baroque complex known as Les Invalides is the eternal home of Napoleon Bonaparte. The little dictator's remains are entombed under the building's towering golden dome. In 1989, the dome was re-gilded using more than 500,000 gold leaves, which is equivalent to 20 pounds of gold. Napoleon's remains were relocated here from the island of St. Helena in 1840. The emperor's body is protected in a series of 6 coffins reminiscent of a Russian nesting doll. The complex was ordered to be built by Louis XIV as a home for disabled soldiers. At one time, 4,000 military men lived here. Today, a portion of the facility still serves as a veterans' residence and hospital. There is also a military museum that contains a collection of artifacts ranging from antique armor to weapons. Southeast of the Champ de Mars sits a vast complex of majestic buildings known as the École Militaire. This sizable institution was conceived around the middle of the 18th century after the end of the War of Austrian Succession, when King Louis XV received a proposal from Marshal Maurice de Saxe to create a school to train young cadets of the Royal Army. The school would go on to count among its students some of the most decorated officers and military men in French history. One of the school's most famous students was Napoleon Bonaparte, who attended in 1784. Today, the decorated institution is used to train French military officers. The Eiffel Tower was originally built as an exhibit for the 1889 Paris World's Fair. Construction began in 1887 and was designed by Gustave Eiffel. This famous landmark stands at 1,000 feet tall. It took hundreds of workers to complete this massive undertaking. The tower contains 12,000 pieces of metal and 2.5 million rivets. At the time of its completion, the Eiffel Tower was the tallest tower in the world. Nearly 2 million people viewed the tower during the World's Fair. Guests were amazed to see that the tower even illuminated at night. Gas lamps encased in colored glass sent a beacon of red, white, and blue light throughout the streets of Paris. The Eiffel Tower was supposed to be demolished after 20 years. However, the tower's usefulness during the birth of the radio and during the war years ensured that the structure would endure. Today, it stands as the most iconic symbol of France. You can either take the 704 steps or an elevator to the top of the tower. In addition, visitors can make reservations at one of the 2 restaurants operating within the structure. Today we are going on the Flavors of Paris excursion. We'll enjoy a guided walk through a richly historic quarter. Cour du Commerce Saint-Germain is a curious little passageway dating from 1776. The old street includes small boutiques and the famous Le Pré-Cup, one of Paris's oldest restaurants. It runs along the former fortification built by King Philip Augustus in the late 12th century. It's divided into 2 parts. There's an area which is exposed to the elements, as well as a covered section. The famous restaurant Le Pré-Cup borders the narrow street. Le Pré-Cup is the first cafe opened in Paris, and possibly the world. Its creation dates back to 1686. In a rather more morbid part of the history of Cour du Commerce is the fact that it is where the guillotine was first tested, allegedly on sheep. The guillotine came about when Dr. Joseph Guillotine proposed that a new and more humane method of execution be developed. Our first stop took us to the Café Neo. This local cafe treated us to a fresh French baguette along with a variety of French cheeses and meats. We were given a choice of red or white wine to cleanse the palate after our sample charcuterie. Next, we went to one of Eric Kaser's boulangeries. Over the years, Kaser has made a name for itself with its high-quality bread, pastries, and cakes, thanks to its ability to constantly update and enhance its expertise. The croissant we sampled was so buttery that it melted in your mouth. The bakery surely is popular based on the steady foot traffic witnessed during our visit. You can find an Eric Kaser bakery on 5 of the 7 continents. We then went to Le Pré Brasserie. A brasserie is a French restaurant with a relaxed setting. Le Pré is a restaurant with a relaxed and comfortable atmosphere located in the heart of the Saint-Germain-des-Prés. Le Pré offers exceptional design and a gourmet menu with a superb terrace in one of the most notable neighborhoods of Paris. While there, we once again sampled some French meat and cheese, and of course they were happy to provide us with some wine. Finally, we arrived at Reichardt, which is considered one of the most refined chocolate companies in Paris. Reichardt is dedicated to producing the finest chocolates for you from the finest ingredients. Their ongoing mission is to create an experience of complete pleasure for your visual and tasting senses. Reichardt chocolates are the product of a family tradition of ceaseless pursuit for perfection in chocolate. Reichardt's fine chocolates exhibit their love and dedication to the chocolatier's craft. That's why they are considered to be the most beautiful and the most refined chocolates in the world. We were able to sample an artichoke chestnut chocolate, a thyme chocolate, and a salted butter caramel chocolate. In addition, we were given a macaroon to try. The chocolates that were provided were small but packed a flavor punch. Although the majority in the group did not care for the thyme chocolate, I thought it was the most interesting. And how can you go wrong with chocolate and caramel?